Hi, Liza. We have a very, very small group here today. So you guys want to unmute yourselves?
It's probably because we're all home in the snow. At least we are on the East Coast.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Definitely.
I'm in New Hampshire and we don't have the snow yet, but it's coming.
Well,
Oh,
we have ice.
wow.
We have ice, which is worse.
Where are you, Margot?
I'm on Maryland. I'm on the
Okay.
Eastern Shore, but the school is in Annapolis, and it's the same there. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have, I'm in Long Island. My home's in Long Island. We have about 10 inches. And the flakes are the biggest flakes I've ever seen. And the
Oh my
school
God.
has about 6 inches, but we did virtual today.
We just shut school. We took a snow day.
Oh, no, my parents would like that, but we were just closed for Friday and Monday. So we were like,
okay.
we'll do virtual. And now I'm deciding whether I should open tomorrow. It's already Friday and just go virtual. There's always some parent that's going to complain.
Oh, no matter what we do, no matter
Exactly.
what. Yep.
Exactly. At my school, our head of school is from Minnesota. And so a couple of years ago, we had some days that were just really, really cold, and they would close the public schools because kids were waiting at bus stops, early in the morning. And it was so cold, when it was like -20 wind chill or something. And she's from Minnesota. She goes, "That's nothing. We were going to have." And we didn't have buses anyway, so we would have school. But yeah, we were
They
always
have a different mindset. I had gone to Minnesota on a Montessori NAMTA seminar, and we arrived, and my cousin met us at the airport. And my husband and I were wearing boots and coats and whatever. It was really cold. And he came in a sports jacket and his regular shoes. And he said, "It's not 40 below. It's fine." I was like, okay. Too cold for me.
Yeah. What temperature is it where you are, Maisel? Just to make us feel bad.
It's let me just convert it because I'm familiar with Celsius.
I know.
So let me yeah, we're around 23 degrees Celsius right now, so it's 73
73.
degree.
Yeah.
Yep, degrees.
Sounds wonderful.
It does.
This is
Sounds
cold
great.
for us.
Cold for you.
Yeah.
We're in
Here.
the 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cold.
20. Yeah. So that's like, I don't know. Camilla, I never really internalized Celsius, even though I lived in Europe for a couple of years. It was just really hard for me to get oh yeah, it's 20 out today and it's like a nice day,
For me, it's like because I just recently moved to England, and obviously everything here is Celsius. I still have to kind of somewhat convert it, and I've tried to set it up on my phone to where it just shows up Celsius so I can get used to it. But when I see a 20, I think, oh gosh, that should be cold, but it's decent weather. Like in my head, it doesn't feel right. I think I'm just preset for Fahrenheit for life. I think I'll always have to mentally convert it.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
So I don't know if you guys have any questions for us. That's why we're having just the office hours. And we knew when we set this up that there might be some weeks where, it just wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
But is anything on your mind or?
I came in to say hi.
It's always a pleasure to see you, Liza. You're always at the town hall, so it's good to see your face and that you're doing well.
It's always nice to see a new face that is one we don't see on a daily basis, since we are still rather limited with who we see. Yeah.
True.
Now, we spent the entire last week, two of our head of school and one of our assistants literally tracking down COVID shots for our staff. It took the entire week, both of them working night and day to do it. It was just mind-boggling,
New York is very tough. There
Is it?
are most of the places open. Now they're closing down. My husband and I were lucky enough that we got our first shot on Sunday. So
Oh, nice.
I was very, very nervous because I have a lot of allergies, but so far so good. So we're happy to have gone through the first rounds, and I didn't have an allergic reaction. So now we just have to make it through the second round.
Well, I've had both and absolutely nothing on the second round, no matter, everybody is different, but
Right.
yeah, didn't even know you had it basically for me, which is, I was very lucky. Very
Yeah,
lucky.
that is very lucky because people do say, one of my teachers, but she's very young, and they say the young have a little bit harder time than the older people. So she had her arm swelled up and she said, "Oh, I have to take a nap now." So she went and had a nap. So so I'm
Well,
hoping
we
that's
were-
not going to happen.
We were delighted to get the staff covered, needless to say, and that all the staff, which is really, we feel very fortunate. And we've, knock on wood somewhere, we've been very, very lucky because we ran a summer program last summer and opened in person as well as with
Oh,
distance
brave.
this year. And we have not a problem, knock on wood. Yeah. But we spend more money on cleaning supplies than Carter has liver pills, to be very old fashioned about it. It's easily, and we're not a huge school, but we're easily spending about $1,000 a month just on disinfectant wipes. Which,
If you can get them.
if you can get them. Oh, we very nice. One of our major cleaning suppliers. We ordered through them. Otherwise, we wouldn't get it. But we're not paying anything below what the normal price is. So it's expensive, but worth it.
Well, we in New York, they'll definitely gouge you. So we had gone to a local place that does our stuff, and they were like, "Okay, for one little container, $75." So my husband and I are like, we're just gonna we did the Costco, the Sam's, the BJ's. We would go out every Saturday at 6 o'clock in the morning, and
Yep.
we piled up because you could get 4 for $75.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not gonna pay $75. So.
Hi, Heidi and Wally. We have a really small group here, and we kind of knew it was going to be this way when we just started doing the office hours that every other week. So is there anything?
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to join late.
No problem. We're just chatting, really.
Okay. Well, I do have some questions if I could ask for
Yeah.
advice.
Sure.
So I think I've emailed you about this previously, but we are looking at moving from a academic year model for our infant and toddler program to a year-round model. And because, and I looked at it and I said, we're already running a summer school program. We're doing these enrichment days that cover holidays. We're running a year-round program. We just haven't come to terms with it. But part of that is we really want to change it, because right now what you get is, 2 trained teachers doing the academic day and the academic calendar. And then we're constantly filling in with, I hate to say minimum wage, but, assistants who are not trained yet. And so while we would like to, keep everybody and move training along, that's kind of the model. So the summer is with assistants, the aftercare is with assistants, the holidays are with assistants. So this is like rethinking it and saying, okay, we're going to do year round and we're going to do extended day. And we're going to do this so that we've got a lead teacher who then maybe has an assistant working with her. And then another lead teacher comes in later in the day and has an assistant, so you've got that continuity of care. So it's the same program, whether you sign up for the summer, whether it's aftercare, whether it's a holiday, it's the same program with the same standards. So, but this is all new for us. So I'm trying to think through, what does the staffing look like? How are those slots set up? Do you, give people, like, they still get 2 months off? It just might be mid-year. So they're still working, 10 months out of the year and getting 2 months off. And you give them like week breaks or trimesters, or and then how do you structure this extended day so that you've got the coverage without having too many people in the room all of a sudden? So it's just, I think we've got to work on that staffing piece in order to move forward. And then if anyone has any other words of wisdom about successful year-round programs, because I have we've been talking about parent education is going to be part of that. And, we don't want this just to be daycare. We want it to be more than that. So I don't know, we're in progress, and I feel like there's an A and there's a D, and I'm missing the B and C. And I'm not even 100% clear what the B and C are. Because once I know what they are, then it's like, okay, that I can work on, right? But it's the how do we get from here to there? Does that, I said a lot, but does that make sense?
Does your current population, in terms of your parents, do they support, would they sign up for year round?
Well, we have some that do and some that don't, which has kind of kept us from committing fully to either. What I find though is that we tend not to say no to people.
Right,
Does
right.
that make sense?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so if someone says, I need this holiday covered, I need summer school, I need extended care, we can say yes. And then but that's what I mean is we've started running a year-round program just without thinking of it as a year-round program. And in the meantime, we've got staff who are like, how can I cover this year-round? But they're also dissatisfied with just turning it over to assistants.
We've
Yeah.
gone through it several times because
Thank
again,
you. Okay, I knew you'd have
we
experience.
had parents who were interested in doing it. We investigated it, even going out to some places that were year round.
Uh-huh.
And what it came down to it, you didn't have enough in terms of the current parent body to support it.
Okay,
Not only starting basically a new program and trying to get that funded at the same, funded in terms of tuition, at the same time that you're running your regular program, which is probably the bulk of your program and needs to be maintained. It's
Okay.
very difficult. If you Google year-round Montessori schools,
okay,
you will get some. And I'm not at the office, so I can't pull our files that we had. But if you put in the chat, if you put your email, I'll try and get it. I won't be in the office till next week, but I will see what we kept in our records and be
okay.
glad to share it with you. But
That'll be tremendous.
we found that it was much easier doing the holiday care because it got different parents, not necessarily the ones who wanted year round.
Huh,
So that we found filling in where we had the current staff to do so who needed extra funds.
yeah,
We have unbelievably educated assistants. We're very, very fortunate. And so it wasn't a lesser program, it was just slightly different program.
okay,
But without a base of current parents, I wouldn't do it. I was never in favor of us doing it, but
Okay.
we investigated it anyway. It didn't, financially, it just didn't work. No
okay.
matter how many parents told us, oh, of course I'll sign up. Of course I'll do it. Those are the ones that send their children to public kindergarten instead of third year primary.
Yeah,
So be very cautious, very, very cautious.
okay.
Yeah.
What levels, Heidi, were you considering this?
We're
for
just looking at infant toddler right now. So
Okay.
it would be our infant program and basically birth to 3. And part of it is we tend to do rolling admissions anyway. And we know that often the parents who can afford the full day care are working parents, and it's not like they get their summers off. So we always have a group of, I'm going to say 5, maybe 4 or 5 infants and toddlers who stay with us during the summer.
Yeah,
That's kind of the base of it.
I think Matt Hillis does year round as well, because I
Does-
remember
yeah.
that he closed last spring, but then reopened again in like June. And
Yeah, I believe his he's got birth through 6 are year round, and that makes a lot of sense to me. I can't do that yet for our early childhood, but in terms of the parents and again, if you're working parents and you need that coverage, we always have a group of summer school kids. We offer in these enrichment days for holidays, and we always have kind of a demand for that. Not enough to make up a full class, perhaps, though. That's the tough part.
right.
This is Wally here. I just
Yeah.
there are pros and cons of actually having a year-round program versus regular 10-month program and then a month of summer camp. So I mean, there are certain schools who have decided to go that way. In our case, we have had really summer camp orientation during June and July. And typically our summer population is 50% of our normal population
Mm.
students. The other issue that we've had is most of our teachers do not want to work in summer.
Right. Right.
So I mean, there are maybe one or two might. So in which case we have them, but otherwise we just manage that with our experienced assistants. And
Well, yeah, go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
what I'm saying is that in some ways it works out fine, because I think parents also do want a little bit of a change in the environment during the summertime. In the sense also they want more flexibility. For example, they may come certain weeks, they may not want to come certain weeks. They don't want to commit to like a whole month or both months at the same time. So because of course in normal times they like to travel and all that. So we have had like a weekly option, but this year we will not have that because that's complicated. So you just need to think through all of these things to see whether or not it makes your life more difficult if you want to really move into the year-round program.
Well, maybe the issue is really about getting the assistants trained to a level where we're comfortable.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. You can't have teachers working 12 months out of a year; they just burn out. So the staffing would have to be different if it was a year round.
Exactly. And I think some of our teachers, I would say majority of our teachers, essentially the second income earner.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that they really need to work, make money, and to survive. They rather not work, and then basically freshen up. Now, the advantage of that is that when they come back in August, they are somewhat recharged.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, no, I definitely see that. It's just, maybe I could do something where they take their summer at different times of the year. So you would still have continuity for the kids, but you would also have breaks for the teachers.
Do you have the administration life more difficult?
Yeah.
To manage all that.
I suppose.
Do you have, how many guides do you have at that level for those levels?
Well, I mean, right now we have three full-time infants, or three full-time teachers who want to teach infants, plus two assistants. One would be a half-time, one would be a full-time. And then we've got two more full-time toddlers. Yeah. So we would be looking to expand if we did this. Yeah.
I guess I was just, an idea might be if they can sort of, if it's really just one classroom worth in the summer, maybe one lead guide can take a few weeks in the summer and the other one, so they'll still get breaks, but not as long of a break, either one. But and then they would probably want more compensation, I would imagine, for that. But maybe something like that. I think it would be tough to disrupt the continuity of the regular school year by having a lead guide take, January and February off or something like that. That would be my sense, but
okay. All right, that's good to know.
No.
Heidi, actually, I was gonna say that Camille actually said exactly what I was thinking. At the school that I worked at for a while, what we did in the summer is we didn't have it open. We didn't have the school open the whole summer. I think we did 2 months out of the summer. And we had the lead guides take turns. So each lead guide took 2 weeks, and they did 2 weeks of the summer and then had the rest of the summer off. And they were paid an additional, in addition to those 2 weeks. But they still had a quite a lengthy summer break because they only worked for 2 weeks during the summer. And it worked quite well because it was probably only about like 30 or 40% of the normal school capacity. And the teachers still felt quite well rested. And then we had the assistants who were paid hourly, who were kind of happy to just work in the summer, and they were there assisting.
What we have done in our case is with some teachers, we have signed an 11-month contract rather than 12-month contract. And so what happens is obviously if the if you only have one summer toddler class, for example, if there are 2 teachers and each works for 11 months, so you can cover with different teachers both June and July. So each one gets a month off, and some of them are willing to agree to that, particularly if they don't have a family.
Mhm. Well, what we're doing right now is I just sent out a interest survey to our parents, trying to get a sense of, how many are we talking about, what ages, because that affects it too. So we'll get more information about the summer, but it's good to have your feedback. I've got another infant toddler question. This is currently causing my hair to go gray. My infant and toddler teachers are talking about the need to move children up developmentally. So we've got, for example, some late November birthdays, and my toddler teachers are saying not ready to go to early childhood. But at the same time, we really want to fill our early childhood classes, not have that go unused. Also, I would get pushback from my early childhood teachers saying, it's mid-year and we have to, renormalize the class, and this child's really young. And so, but at the same time, the child's really kind of too old to stay in toddler a full year. I don't know if anyone, I keep picturing like a water wheel, right? And it's like going around, except it keeps sticking at one point. So I don't know if you have words of wisdom about that.
We have wrestled with that issue quite a bit. In some cases, we have opted to keep the child a little bit longer rather than pushing him out earlier, because what has happened is that, when certain toddler has moved up to primary and is not ready, that creates a havoc in the other class. Because they're not independent. Probably they're toilet trained, but they're not independent. They're very disruptive, and the primary teachers get really frustrated.
Yes.
And we have had really headbutting between the toddler teachers and the primary teachers, because the toddler teacher said, "Oh, he's ready," and all that, and maybe she was a little bit more generous in her evaluation. And the primary teacher just essentially said, "No, you're just making my life miserable." So what we're doing is what we do is we start having them visit, like maybe a day or so, half a day for a while.
Okay.
And then let that be a joint decision whether or not they should stay in toddler or they should move up. So I think that occasional visit, let's say if you guys feel the child would be ready in 3 months from now, start getting them to go to their class maybe for an hour or 2 hours and all that, and see how it all works out. And then you probably be more comfortable if we have a choice. Based on our licensing agreement, I think with the county, we're supposed to move the children when they turn 3.
Yes.
We have kept them, in many cases, about 6 months. In some, not in many cases, in some cases 6 months longer. In which case we were violating the rules.
Yeah, we were on the same thing.
That was the best. But ideally, you say, well, a child is ready, should be ready, can be ready by 2.5 years. But it doesn't work for every time. There are very few children who are ready, both, emotionally and otherwise, and independent enough to be able to move that early.
Right.
But theoretically, they can. 2.5 to 3.5 to 3 years is what they recommend.
Okay.
But I would start, if you have the option to start getting them to visit the place.
Okay.
Both the teachers will see, and then let the 2 teachers talk to one another and see what the primary teachers, what issues they're finding, and then let the toddler teacher can maybe focus towards those issues in her class while they're there, and then the child, when they move up, they're much better prepared.
We didn't have a toddler program in our school, but we would take students into primary in January. We had one mid-year date where we wouldn't, and not a whole lot, but we maybe 2 or 3. And it's kind of the same thing, I think, where if you had a toddler that was maybe turning 3 in the fall, and so not really ready to start, or November or December, not ready to start in primary in August, September,
Mhm.
but might be ready in January. So that yes, it's a disruption a bit to the primary classroom, but it's kind of all at once. And, it's 2 or 3, a cohort of, 2 or 3 that would be introduced to the classroom. And then they would end up being in primary probably for 3 years after that, so they're in primary for 3.5 years total. But that's just another thought. It's to just maybe not just have it be kind of one-off staggered through the year, but to say, okay, it was always when we came back from, the Christmas break, that would be the time when we would take a few more into the primary classroom.
That's in fact what my own daughter did. She has a late October birthday, and she moved up at the half, both from toddler to, well, from infant to toddler, and from toddler to EC. She moved up at the halfway, and that really worked for her. What I see though is I've got my director of admissions telling me that she could have filled that spot in the EC, and now she's lost her fall tuition by holding a spot for a kid that's not ready. So anyway, it's a tug of war.
For this
Right,
coming
it's what-
fall, sorry, go ahead, Camille.
No, go ahead. That's okay.
What I'm saying is that for this fall, which the situation of pandemic is so uncertain, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So the best thing is to try not to make too many changes in
Okay.
this fall. Just kind of keep the steady thing as much as possible. Don't try to rock the boat and experiment with new things. If you can help it till things become, I think, a little bit more stable. Depending on how much of a challenge you want to take upon yourself. It's just that there are already just many things going on, and on top of that, if you throw some other new things, that it may muddy the water potentially. Not
Well,
all that necessarily.
Oh, I hear that, and it's a really good reminder. What's interesting is that this feels like an opportunity for us.
Okay.
And that's because we have never had an admissions demand like this. Normally filling our classes is like, oh, we wish, right?
Mhm.
But this year, where our toddler class is already full. I mean, it just capped today. And our elementary, we had to turn people away. So, and it's because people are just really ready for their children to be out of their home. And it's because they're dissatisfied with how the public school system has handled e-learning, and we have other changes happening locally in our public school system that people are considering private who never considered private before. So it feels like, if we can adapt and take this on, make room, that we might keep most. But if we just have to say, nope, we're full, I'm sorry, that we may lose an opportunity. So I absolutely hear you. I mean, I've got a staff who's just burned out on change. They're just burned out, period. What am I saying? But change fatigue is set in, and they're all stressed, and we're all, trying to do too much with too little. And that's a really good reminder.
What I find is that we have had actually some remote teaching, remote classes, a couple of them, and then the rest in person. And what I find is that those who are teaching remotely, they're more stressed out than the one who are on campus.
Definitely.
And just this week, actually, we brought the 2 that we were doing remotely on campus this week. They seem to be a lot happier.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And the kids are too.
Yes,
I'm in a kind of weird position of I have one child who's third grade and who's doing it remotely, and her personality, it works for her. She loves it. And I've got another kid who was first, and we tried remote, and it was just awful. So she's back in person, and they're both happy doing that. But I've seen the other remote kids and the remote teachers, and yeah, it's a struggle. I think the very worst thing is what we've ended up doing in some cases, which is blended, where you're trying to both teach a in-person and remote, right? If you could just do remote, that I've got in my UE, we've got just remote. and my upper elementary. And that actually works really successfully. Where it's very, very hard is the lower elementary, where we've tried to have the same teachers going in and out of the room back and forth. And, you know, that's a strain. Definitely. We made a go of an off-campus early childhood program, but it has just absolutely exhausted the teachers. And so we made a decision that we're going to pull the plug on that for next year. It was too bad. I was excited about that, but it just did not, it was too much. We would have had to have a dedicated staff, and we didn't have enough students to make it cost efficient.
The challenge that we are having for this fall is not knowing, you know, I mean, for example, right now we are operating at 70% of our normal enrollment because of the fact that, you know, all of these requirements with distance and with cleaning and all the other stuff. The question is, what do you do? I mean, are we going to go up, and by how much for next fall? If you're able to, I mean, should we go to our full strength? And again, we do not know exactly what shape August will take right now. So, but you have to decide now, because you don't want to turn people away. If they turn it away, you can't come back in June and July and say, hey, you can come back.
Yeah.
So that has been a difficult planning cycle for us. Too many unknowns.
We're all in the, excuse me, we're all in the same boat. And that's
Yes.
the worst thing of all, because again, we have long applicant pool lists
Yeah.
and we just don't know. So we're making, you know, the best choice that we can, going up to a certain level. And then a little bit of prayer and a lot of hope that maybe, you know, we'll be able to expand, because in Maryland, we're, you know, still 6 foot distance and all that kind of stuff. And it's hard fitting in with all the shelves. You know, we have shelves in hallways, you know, we have everything else, but it's very, very difficult. And I don't know about you all, where your local health department or childcare, whatever, you know, governs you, but we're getting absolutely no fall information at all.
No.
That's because they don't know either.
No, they don't. And I understand that. Unfortunately, the parents don't.
Yes. So I think what we might do is we maybe go to like 85% in August, and then we'll see how it goes. And then if it's keep improving, this whole issue of vaccinating the teachers, that's up in there. Hopefully, I'm hoping that by fall, the teachers will be vaccinated. That makes a little bit of a difference in terms of their safety. But because I think looks like the new administration has committed to prioritizing the teachers for vaccination. So let's hope. I mean, that will help a lot.
Yes.
But it'll be nice year from now and all that, when we're all together in a cruise, looking back and say, yeah, how did we make it? Right? Maybe Camille should organize a cruise in 2022.
That sounds great.
Yeah. We
can
haven't
have a
really
town hall on the ship.
we haven't really seen child-to-child transmission.
Yes, that's what they said.
So I don't know whether that's just an old wives' tale going around on the internet, but that hasn't. Maybe we've just been very lucky, knock on wood. You know, we do have cases, but they have very clearly come from the outside, you know, from the family, and they're isolated. So we've quarantined a couple times, but there haven't been any secondary infections afterwards. And so that makes me feel a little bit more fingers crossed optimistic about if we can get our teachers vaccinated. I'm feeling like this might work for fall.
Yeah, that's what we keep hearing. So hopefully that'll come true.
Okay. I don't know what other people are experiencing, if that's because I was having nightmares last July about we were going to reopen in August, and then sure enough, it was like our first transition day back, and we'd set up an absentee reporting, you know, kind of form, and someone filled out, my child has a congestion and sore throat, and then someone else filled out, my child has congestion, sore throat. I was like, here we go, right? Like I said visions of this like decimating classrooms, and it just hasn't been like that. So I very lucky. I don't
We
know.
have had essentially a couple of cases where children actually were tested positive,
Mhm.
but not from the school environment, but from outside the school. So the moment we knew about it, they were
Right.
quarantined
Yep.
for the. We have been very strict in terms of the protocols,
Mhm.
and that's been kind of somewhat frustrating for the parents.
Yes.
But for example, I mean, if you have runny nose, if you're sneezing, I mean, granted that even though the pediatrician may say, okay, the child has allergy and all that, but we can't take the chance, right? I mean, because yes, 99, 95% maybe it is. I mean, for the little 5%, we cannot then essentially have the other children get cold and cough and runny nose. I mean, that is going to open a Pandora's box for us to manage. So
Mhm.
we say, okay, we'll be 100% on the safe side. Any symptoms, I mean, you don't come in, and that has been, I know, hard for some of the parents, especially the two working families. I know it's been tough. But
Yeah.
most of our parents have basically stuck around. There are maybe a couple of parents who have withdrawn
Mhm.
because then they went somewhere. The rules are somewhat more lax. They will take you even if the child has a runny nose and all that. But then it's just the school has to decide. I mean, what do you want to do? I mean, it's just there really no 100% right or wrong answer.
Heidi, I just remembered that about a month from now, I think March 25th, if you're still interested in, I guess, learning more about an all year Montessori, we do have a speaker, I think, coming who's going to be talking about all day, all year Montessori. And she actually operates one and has done for a few years. So I'm sure she'd be able to give you some advice. I don't know if you'll be able to make the live or watch back the recording. I think it's going to be on, I just checked the calendar. It's going to be March 25th.
March 25th. Okay, I'll put it on my calendar.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. I'm going to go off and see the landing of the Mars rover, I hope.
Okay.
Are they showing it on? Are they showing it live?
Yes.
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 Oh,
Stay
okay.
safe. Thank
Sounds
you.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Marco.
Thanks for letting us know. That may be a good thing to watch.
Yeah.
Interesting, at least.
There's no COVID in Mars for sure.
That's true. Well, does anybody else have anything else?
Camille, I sent you a couple of notes. I'm sorry because I think are we supposed to be getting these reminders or no? Or am I missing out something? Maybe I just.
Yeah. I saw that, Wally, right before the meeting started. I think what happened is, remember when we consolidated everything under your one email?
Right.
The emails, this is really specific to Wally, but
Sorry about that.
no, that's okay. I could see they're going to crabapple.montessori@gmail.com.
Oh, it is going.
They are going, and I can see that
Okay.
the one for that I sent on Tuesday was opened. So
Okay.
So
I need
if
to
you
be
want,
more-
if you wanted to go to another email, an additional email, let me know, and I can we can certainly add that too.
No, that's fine. I think I just need to be more vigilant to check. Sometimes it gets lost, but okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
And the other thing is the link never changes. When you says register and you go, it brings you to the page to actually register for that Zoom link never changes. So if you would just, you don't have to get the email in order to register, is what I'm saying.
No, but the old one that we had, like maybe 3 months ago or so, if you had that, remember the one before you moved to Thrive in this thing, when I went on that URL, that would say invalid ID.
Okay, so I did just recently change it. We were using Qasim's account and I just changed it to my account. But that was that was a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Very good.
Right, but see, Maisel just put in the chat, it's always been nidomarketing.com/town-hall. So,
okay.
And I always update on that page what the next, what the speaker is for that week. Speaking of that, next week we have Mary Lou Cobb, coming, and I just chatted with her this morning, and she's going to talk about building community in Montessori schools, and especially the challenges now of doing that. So anyway, it should be good. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, and good luck, Heidi, with your adventures.
Okay, well, no, I very appreciate the words of experience.
Well, keep us posted. We would like to know what your experience has been.
All right,
My
great.
advice too, Heidi,
Yep.
is it's
Yeah,
okay
please.
to, I know it's maybe not you, but it's okay to say no to some of these things too.
Yes.
I mean, it's easy to, every parent has different ideas about what they want. And, it's hard to kind of say no sometimes, but sometimes you have to maintain the quality of everything else,
Right.
So.
Yeah.
We have
No, I
had
appreciate it.
quite a bit of interest, I think, actually, especially in elementary, with children in the maybe second or third grade who have never been to Montessori before.
Mhm.
And we're very leery of basically opening up. Right now, the latest one we got is someone who's a fifth grader, never been to Montessori.
Mhm.
And
That's tough.
our teachers just flip when we
Yep.
say something about that. And I can understand why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're also, I know we're wrapping up here, but we're kind of wrapping our heads around the fact that we've got an entire generation of kids that have lost a grade. So
Yes.
whether that's they were remote or they were homeschooled or, so we toured a fourth grader yesterday, and her mother said, oh, she hasn't been in school since second grade. And so we had to whoa, should we even consider this as a fourth grader, or did we need to think of her more as a third grader, or but that's of course our cutoff between lower elementary and upper elementary. And at any rate, so but I think that actually is a plus for Montessori right now, and I haven't figured out a way to advertise it yet, but that, if you had a child who was first grade or on track for first grade, but needs extra help, or, should be in second, but is really not quite at second, we've got classrooms that are multi-aged with materials that go at their own pace, that we could hopefully get some of these kids back on track. But it's almost a lost year of education. So it's.
Yeah, many of our families, quite a few actually, they basically took the year off. They didn't want to come to school. And then now they're trying to re-enroll, or they're enrolling this August. And so it's the same situation you're talking about. So what we are thinking about is we are actually trying to add some extra resources just to tutor these people in terms of especially reading and math and things like that, because we know that when they come back, they'll be somewhat behind. So that'll require some extra resources on our part to make that managed. But I get, especially some of them who are potentially going to elementary from primary, we want to make sure that they're ready for elementary, even though I think it's because they took so much time off. And you don't want an unprepared child going to first grade when it comes to this August. So that will require some extra resources on our part, but I think it probably is essential that we do that.
We do have a school, another client that is actually advertising kind of with that premise of, I can't remember the exact wording. I'd have to go look at it, but, has your child lost time? We're not saying it that way, but that's kind of the premise of the advertising. And I haven't checked in to see how that's going. These are Google ads, but, it is something and Montessori classrooms are great for accommodating, that. So it is a positive for us. So.
Well, what I see as a positive within, it's those break points, right? Which is, I would really hate to take a first grader age-wise and put them into an early childhood class. I really hate to take a fourth grader and put them into a lower elementary class. And yet that's almost where they belong. Yeah. So I mean, that's within, it's very successful, but
We always looked at it, especially primary to elementary, as it being more of a social readiness and rather than academic readiness, you know, they're and maturity kind of readiness. But and our, I don't know, maybe it's a little different at your school, but our, you know, our upper elementary would pretty much encompass, you know, kind of go beyond those 3 years a little bit on the ends where there were those students that were, you know, needing extra help in certain areas, but like emotional development, were ready to be in with their same age group. You know, we always thought it was most beneficial for them to be with their same age, but not always, but that the curriculum could kind of adjust as needed that way. But every school kind of, I know, kind of has their own way of looking at it. So all kinds of challenges.
Thank you for your time, Camille, and everybody
Yeah.
else.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you so much. I really
I'm not
appreciate
sure if
it.
we'll post this recording, but maybe we will. Why not?
It's,
All right.
there is an advantage to having a small gathering sometime, because then you can talk about some issues at length that you cannot do otherwise.
That's right.
I have to say, I prefer if you don't. Just because, okay, you know, I forget. I get on these and I talk freely about problems, but not everybody likes to have our problems talked about. Does that make sense?
You'll be surprised how common many of the problems are. I think most of the problems are rarely unique. 100%.
I appreciate that. I just don't want to get in trouble with my boss. So
It all stays in the town hall.
yeah.
What happens in the town hall stays in the town hall.
Well, you know, I forgot because I just come in with my, you know, and it's part of it is I believe in laying out the challenges because that way you get the best advice. But, you know, I forget that I do represent an institution, and sometimes I don't remember that. Anyway, thank you so much for your time.
In one of the sessions, Camille, in this small sessions, it may be worthwhile talking about how the schools are doing with respect to air purifiers, if they're using it or not, how is it working, what experience has been, because I think that'd be a worthwhile thing to know, because there may be inexpensive solutions. Remember, we have had a couple of meetings before with some of the guys who are marketing this. So it'd be nice to at least sometime talk about that and see who's using it and how is it working out.
You know, I have a perfect guy for you. If you want to put your email in the chat, I will ask him to email you. He has done our HVAC system for us and worked with the HVAC company, and he knows it in and out. And he would be glad to give you. He's a former biochemist. He'd be glad to give you his wisdom on that.
That'd be great. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to let me. I'm just posting my email address.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, if you let me know, that'll be great, because I've done quite a bit of investigating myself. So it'd be nice to see what he has to say. Thank you.
And that's also a great question to put in the forum on Montessori Thrive.
I think so, yeah.
Not everybody is on the town halls necessarily, so good. All
Sounds
right.
good. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad nobody's from Texas.
There's probably a reason why nobody's from Texas.
Yeah, you don't want to be there. Boy, it's been rough for the last few days.
Yeah, it has. So
bye-bye.
Stay warm, everybody. Thank you.
You too. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.